Keeping your eyes on the prize. You've heard that statement before, but what does that actually mean here at NIH? And what kind of research is actually supported with prize competition? Join us for this episode of the NIH All About Grants podcast to learn more about prizes.
From the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, this is All About Grants.
All right, well, welcome to the show. I'm glad to say that we have with us Dr. Taylor Gilliland. He is the NIH Challenge Manager here within the NIH Office of the Director, and he's going to tell us all about prizes, which are a separate thing than grants for this All About Grants podcast. Welcome to the show, Taylor.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here and to share some information with your audience.
All right. So let's just set the stage. What is a challenge competition, a prize competition anyways?
Yeah, I mean, great question to start us off with. So first of all, a challenge, aka prize competition, in NIH, we use those two terms interchangeably. It can really best be described as an open innovation mechanism, whereby solutions to problems are crowdsourced from the public, and then the best solutions are awarded a prize. And usually that's in the form of a cash payment or honorable recognition or other kinds of support. The challenges have really been used for centuries. We think of them relatively new at NIH, but they've been used for hundreds of years in both public and private sectors to really engage broad audiences, coming up with creative, unanticipated solutions to vexing or challenging problems that an individual organization, or in this case, government agency, is facing. NIH has formally had the statutory authority to launch challenges since 2010. And we've used that mechanism more than 100 times since to achieve, a wide variety of goals, like generating innovative ideas for, let's say, a new strategic scientific direction, developing and demonstrating health technologies like medical diagnostic devices, informing and educating the public about important health topics like the importance of rare disease research, and engaging new people and communities, and then building their capacity to contribute to NIH-funded research. So it's a pretty broad description, but I think we'll get into more of the details as we go along.
Yeah, definitely want to get into a lot of those details. And for centuries, I should have caught the podcast about like 300 years ago. That would have been helpful. But I mentioned these are not grants. They're not contracts. They're something completely separate. You mentioned a statutory authority. It's something different that allows us to fund research. So how are they similar, or are they similar? How are they different from what a traditional grant is here at NIH?
Yeah, so I like to describe challenges as just another tool within our toolbox of mechanisms here at NIH to help achieve our overall mission of optimizing health and preventing or reducing illness for all people. And so in that toolbox, you have challenges, of course, grants, contracts, cooperative agreements, maybe even other transactions awards. These are all different tools that we can pull out and utilize to solve different problems that are within our agency's mission here at NIH. But that's maybe where some of the similarities kind of end, because challenges really contribute to the NIH mission in a significantly different manner. So grants, I like to describe as an innovation push mechanism. You are giving funds to an institution to be implemented by a PI, and they are awarded prospectively to support those researchers in attempting to accomplish certain scientific or technological objectives that are set forth by the investigator, typically as specific aims in a grant application. A grant awards those funds up front, and NIH really takes on the risk if those specific aims are not accomplished. There's also, of course, regulations and requirements as to how those grant funds can be used, of course. Challenges in one way really flip that completely on its head. Instead of a push mechanism, they're an innovation pull or inducement mechanism that retrospectively, not prospectively, but after the fact, awards cash prizes to innovators who successfully accomplish the objectives that are typically set forth by NIH. So it is the participant in a challenge who really absorbs that risk of failure. What's really important with a prize competition is that prizes are not awarded if no one delivers a solution that meets the criteria to win. Also, an important distinction is that cash prizes that challenge awards, they are unrestricted. They can be used for really any purpose, and there's no reporting requirements. So that's just some of the ways in which a challenge is different from a grant, but they both, again, are tools in that metaphorical toolbox at NIH that we use to advance our mission.
Yeah, I like that push and pull metaphor. It's like that's how I teach my kid how to climb a ladder, so I can use that.
I love
Um,
it.
you started off, you mentioned a couple of examples of prize competition. You mentioned there was over 100 since we've started working on these. Can you perhaps tell us a bit more, give a couple more examples and tell us like who is or who was in certain situations if it's closed, like who was eligible to submit an idea?
Great. Yeah. So it's hard amongst our vast portfolio of prize competitions. They really have ranged and been so diverse, which is such a strength of this mechanism, is that you can use it to tackle a wide variety of different problems. Okay, let's get down to specifics. So, for example, right now, actually, I am really lucky to be running a couple different prize competitions all leveraging what we call our Rapid Acceleration of Diagnostics, or RADx Tech program. And each of these three different challenges are focused on helping innovators, technology developers, spinouts, small companies, academic investigators take a prototype diagnostic device or monitoring technology or other kind of, maybe in vitro assay and actually matured along the development pathway to address a specific clinical need. So we have our RADx Tech Maternal Health Challenge for postpartum monitoring devices. We have our RADx Tech Fetal Monitoring Challenge to improve the monitoring and diagnosis of fetal health conditions in utero. We have our RADx Tech Act Indo Challenge, which is going to be a technology accelerator for new ways and non-invasive approaches to diagnosing and monitoring endometriosis. So those are big tech development, tech accelerator type challenges that we're running. There are a couple other different ones that are ongoing at that scale, millions of dollars in cash prizes available, multiple years, multiple phases. But then the other end of the spectrum, we have challenges that are designed to engage real non-traditional audiences. Smaller dollar challenges where we're opening up to anyone in the country that has really good ideas of how we could better communicate certain aspects of public health information or better engage nonprofit community-based organizations. It's a really great challenge that just wrapped up that our Eunice Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, or NICHD, they ran a multi-year, multi-phase challenge called Connecting the Community for Maternal Health Challenge that was all about how do we help small, nonprofit, community-based organizations develop the infrastructure and expertise to participate in NIH-funded grant research. So it's a great way, actually, about how a prize competition was being leveraged to help those who normally wouldn't apply for an NIH grant to develop the expertise and experience and kind of build up the infrastructure they would need to partner with other institutions or be able to directly apply for funding from NIH. So, it's really hard to try and capture everything from small $5,000 challenges to multi-year $10 million competitions and everything in between. But that might just be a few examples that come to mind.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on in this space. Definitely cool to hear about the. You kind of hit on some of this when, for at least from the NIH side, these prizes help de-risk a lot of the research interest from NIH. But what other kind of benefits does it have for NIH or the wider research community, or even the public for that matter?
Well, I think for a win-win for both the public and for NIH is that prize competitions really are great at kind of going beyond our usual suspects and kind of increasing the number and diversity of solvers that are tackling a problem that NIH and our collaborators have identified. So the challenges really significantly lower that administrative barrier to engaging with NIH. And some challenges, the only requirement to compete and win a cash prize is that you be a US citizen or permanent resident or an entity based in the United States. And then we can also award prizes to individuals, not just institutions. So it allows us to be able to directly engage with folks like for some recent challenges, middle school science teachers, high school and undergraduate students directly, community-based nonprofit organizations, like I just mentioned, folks who otherwise wouldn't necessarily have the resources to be eligible to apply for and receive and manage a NIH grant or contract. So we can bring in those experts from fields and disciplines that usually are not supported by NIH-funded research, as well as incentivize the private sector to come in and participate in competitions, because we really, again, it lowers that barrier to entry, diversifies who can contribute to NIH-funded research, and so that's why it's a win for us and for the public. We're able to engage a much broader audience.
Yeah, I truly appreciate that everyone's available to participate in these prizes in some situations, which I think is very cool and gets people better familiar with what NIH is. And I love calling them solvers. I think that's super cool. But you kind of hit on this with the engagement with some of the public. How do people actually find these prize competitions? It's like they may not be familiar with the NIH guide, even if they might even appear, the prize competitions might even appear on there. Can you tell us more about how people can find them and how we promote them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the great thing is that there is a one-stop shop for not just NIH challenges, but challenges being conducted by a wide variety of different federal agencies. And that's challenge.gov. Pretty easy to remember, challenge.gov. And that is where you can go and find out what are all of the open competitions going on, not just NIH, which you can easily filter for, but other federal agencies as well, like NASA and National Science Foundation and Department of Energy, Department of Defense. It's really incredible to see the really diverse ways in which this open innovation mechanism is being utilized across the entire government. So that's kind of your best place to go to find out about NIH prize competitions. Again, it's challenge.gov. And then depending upon who the intended solver or participant audience is, each NIH institute and center that launches a prize competition will craft their own targeted outreach strategy and to make sure that the intended solver audience finds out about it. But challenge.gov, one-stop shop, best place to go.
Definitely one-stop shop. You mentioned money. There was like 10 millions or millions of dollars worth of prizes and other sort of incentives. Can you tell us more about what these incentives are? And if they are financial, I think you even hinted at they could go directly to the person and not the institution. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, big difference with a grant is that a prize competition, for the most part, and the vast majority of competitions we run at NIH, they do offer a cash prize. And that is a direct transfer of funds out of the US Treasury into in some cases, your personal bank account, or to your company's account, or to your institution's account. So they are an unrestricted cash prize. A winner can use them for whatever purpose that they want. There are no reporting requirements. There's no strings attached. They are a reward for having delivered something to NIH, delivered something that not only met the objectives, but were the best out of all the competitors that enter into a challenge. So they are typically challenges awarded direct cash prize. Now there are other kind of non-cash incentives or rewards, whether that be an honorable mention or some of our art challenges or graphic design challenges. NIH will feature the award-winning work on our websites, our promotional materials. We'll showcase winning solutions at conferences and meetings and workshops. So lots of different ways to get recognition. And then in some of our challenges, there are lots of built-in kind of like pro bono support. For example, in those technology development prize competitions I run, each of our innovators across all the phases of the challenge will get free wraparound subject matter consultant support. So let's say if you need some help understanding for example, the FDA regulatory requirements for your particular class of medical device. In our prize competition, you're able to get free consultant support to help you and your company and your startup better understand the regulatory landscape and requirements. Just one example. Or in that Connecting the Community for Maternal Health Challenge, they received the nonprofit groups participating in that one had a multitude of webinars and training and guidance one-on-one from NIH and others on how to apply for a grant from NIH, how to manage receipt, how to design really effective clinical research studies or community-based research studies, et cetera. So lots of ways. It's not just the cash prize. That can be an inducement to participate, but depending on the challenge, lots of this kind of wraparound support, if you will.
Yeah, so you're giving our audience a lot to be thinking about, especially if they're just getting exposed to prizes. What is your advice if someone is just wanting to get started and in this whole world?
Well, I mean, that's just keep an open mind. I mean, everyone listening to this podcast right now, you have some type of idea. You bring your creativity, bring your perspectives, bring that intellect, and be thinking creatively and outside the box of how you could contribute that to solving problems either within the kind of NIH domain you're used to, or even, when you look on challenge.gov, you'll see a lot else that's going on out there that could really benefit from your expertise. So I guess my recommendation would be, think broadly about how you could contribute to solving, problems broadly in the science and technology space, and think about how you can do that with a low barrier way by participating in competitions. And of course, I really care about the ones sponsored by NIH, but also in relation to other federal agencies as well. So be open-minded, realize you bring a lot to the table to solve problems both within your particular scientific or clinical domain, and then far beyond as well.
Yeah. Definitely check out NIH's prizes first, then go to the other agencies.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. So Taylor, this has been great to learn more about prizes and challenge competitions. Before we go, I always like to leave the opportunity for our guests to say any final thoughts. Is there anything you'd like to leave our audience about prize competitions?
If you're a typical member of kind of the NIH funded research ecosystem, when you think about it, participating in a challenge, you can kind of take everything you know about your standard way of engaging with NIH and kind of just gently set that off to the side. And then when you come to a NIH-sponsored challenge, you can think about it as something completely new and different. How you engage, how you participate, the type of solutions you might be providing. It could be a very different experience than maybe what you're used to. So again, if you kind of come into that with that creativity, that open mindset, I think, everyone listening here will be able to find some challenge that they're like, yes, I can contribute my ideas, my solution, my technology, my new approach, or just, my new ideas. We run competitions where we're just looking for really good ideas about new strategic research directions. So, I just encourage you to keep your eyes open for competitions and prizes that you might want to participate in, and don't be shy, and please do participate.
Well, Taylor, I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on prize competitions. To reiterate, check out challenge.gov. That's basically your one-stop shop, providing a whole bunch of information about prizes. You can also reach out to program staff here if there's a competition you've heard about and want to learn a bit more. Definitely reach out to those folks as well. This has been David Kosub with today's edition of All About Prizes. Thank you.